top teeth last night?
No. I should have, but I didn't. Sorry.
He's falling asleep. Are you in a safe place?
Yeah.
Grab a soup cup, would you? Put some water on it. Don't put any toothpaste, just water.
What?
You put water on it?
Yeah, put water on.
Okay, come. What are you looking at?
It feels a lot later than it is. That's all. It's only 11. Feels later. That's all. All right. Episode 27, Shadowfang Keep.
Virtues are mutually equal, and so are the works of virtue in all men who are fortunate enough to possess these virtues. But since the virtues of plants and animals are perishable, they are also fragile, fleeting, and uncertain. They come and go, and for this reason they are not valued the same way. Human virtues are governed by one rule. Right reason is single and of one kind. Nothing is more divine than the divine, or more heavenly than the heavenly. Mortal things decay, fall, wear out, grow, exhaust, and replenish. So in their case, because of their uncertain nature, there is inequality. The things divine have a single nature. Reason, however, is nothing else but a heart of the divine spirit placed in a human heart. If reason is divine, then the good that lacks reason, the good in every case is divine. Furthermore, there is no distinction between things divine, so there's none between goods either. Therefore, it follows that joy and a brave endurance of torture are equal goals, for both involve the same greatness of soul. Relaxed and cheerful in one cause can be ready for action in another. But do you not think that virtue of someone who storms the very stronghold does to that same as a siege with the other usurpations? Scipio is great when he surrounds Numantia and forces the hands of an enemy he cannot defeat to destroy themselves. But the souls of the defender are also great. Men who know that as long as the path to death is open, the arcane is not complete, and who die in the arms of freedom. In the same way, other virtues are also equal when compared with each other. Tranquility, simplicity, generosity, constancy, equanimity, and endurance. For underneath them all is a single virtue, the one that keeps the soul straight and steady. What then, you might ask, is there no difference between joy and enduring pain? Not at all when it comes to the virtues themselves. However, there is a great difference in the situations where these virtues are displayed. In one case, there's a natural relaxation and loosening of the soul. In the other, there's an unnatural pain. So, while there is a great difference in these situations, which belong to the category of indifferent things, the virtue shown in each case is equal. Virtue is not changed by the difficulty of the situation it deals with. If the situation is hard and stubborn, it doesn't make the virtue worse. If pleasant and joyous, it doesn't make it better. Therefore, virtue necessarily means equal. In each case, what is done with equal uprightness, with wisdom and with equal. So the states of goodness involved are equal, and it is impossible for a person to be better than these states of goodness, whether in joy or suffering. And two goods, neither of which can be better, are equal. For if things outside virtue can neither diminish or increase virtue, then what is honorable ceases to be the only good. If you grant this, honor has completely disappeared. And why? Let me tell you. It's because no act is honorable if it's done unwillingly or under compulsion. Every honorable act is voluntary. If you mix reluctance, complaints, cowardice, or fear into it, it loses its best quality, self-approval. That which is not free cannot be honorable, for fear means slavery. The honorable is completely free from anxiety and is calm. If it ever objects, complains, or considers anything evil, it becomes disturbed and begins to flounder in confusion. For on one side, the appearance of what is right calls to it, while on the other side, the suspicion of evil pulls it back. Therefore, when a person is about to do something honorable, they should not consider any obstacles as evil, even if they see them as inconvenient. They should choose to do the deed willingly, for every honorable act is one done without commands or compulsion. It is pure and has no mixture of evil. I know what you might say in response. Are you trying to convince us that it doesn't matter whether a person feels joy or is lying on the rack being tortured? I might answer, Epicurus also says that the wise man, even though being tortured, will say this is pleasant and doesn't concern me at all. Why should you be surprised if I say that the person enjoying a banquet and the one enduring torture possess equal goods when Epicurus claims something even harder to believe, namely that it's pleasant to be tortured? My actual response is that there is a great difference between joy and pain. If I'm asked to choose, I will seek the former and avoid the latter. The former is in line with nature, the latter is against it. As long as we judge them by this standard, there is a great difference between them. When it comes to the virtue of violence, the virtue in each case is the same, whether it comes through joy or through suffering. Vexation, pain, and other inconveniences don't matter because they are overcome by virtue. Just as the brightness of the sun outshines all lesser lights, so virtue by its own wings overpowers all pains, offenses, and wrongs. Whenever its radiance reaches, all other lights which shine by the help of virtue are extinguished. Inconveniences, when they come in contact with virtue, are no more important than a storm cloud at sea. This can be proven by the fact that a good person will hasten unhesitatingly to any noble deed, even if confronted by executioners, torturers, and the state. They will persist, focusing not on what they must suffer, but on what they must do. They will trust themselves to an honorable deed as readily as they will trust themselves to a good person. They will consider it beneficial, safe, and favorable, and they will have the same attitude toward an honorable deed, even if it involves sorrow and hardship, as they would toward a good person who is poor or suffering in exile. Now compare a good person who is wealthy with one who has nothing but who has everything within himself. They will be equally good, even though they experience different fortunes. This same standard applies to things as well as to people. Virtue is just as praiseworthy if it exists in a healthy and free body as in one that is sickly or in bondage. Therefore, regarding your own virtue, you will not praise it more if fortune has favored you with a healthy body than if fortune has given you a body with a physical disability. Doing so would be like rating a master noble because he is dressed like a slave. For all those things over which chance holds power, money, appearance, position, are weak, unstable, prone to perish, and of uncertain possession. On the other hand, the works of virtue are free and unrestrained, neither more worthy to be sought when fortune treats them kindly, nor less worthy when any adversity does. Now, friendship among people corresponds to desirability in things. You wouldn't love a good person more if they were rich than if they were poor, nor would you love someone who is strong and muscular more than someone who is slender and delicate. So, you won't seek or love a good thing that is joyful and peaceful more than one that is full of challenges and hard work. If you do, you might as well care more for a good person who is neat and well-groomed than for one who is dirty and unkempt. And you would care more for someone who has long curly hair than for someone who is bald, even if both are equally just as wise. Whenever the virtue in each person is equal, any inequality in their other attributes is not noticeable. For all other things are not parts of the person, but mere accessories. Would any father judge his children so unfairly as to care more for a healthy son than for a sickly one? Or for a tall child more than one who is short or of average height? Wild animals don't show favoritism among their offspring. They lie down to nurse them all equally. Birds divide their food fairly among their young. Ulysses hurried back to the rocky shores of Ithaca just as eagerly as Agamemnon hurried to the royal walls of Mycenae. No one loves their homeland because it is great. They love it because it is theirs. And what is the point of all this? It's to show you that virtue values all her works equally, as if they were her children, showing the same kindness to all and even more care to those that face hardships. Just as parents often show more affection to the children they pity, virtue too may not necessarily love her works more than they are in trouble and under heavy burdens. But like good parents, she gives them more of her attention. Why is no good greater than any other good? It's because nothing can be more fitting than what is fitting, and nothing can be more level than what is level. You can't say that one thing is more beautiful than another. Similarly, nothing is more honorable than what is honorable. So, if all virtues are by nature equal, then all three types of goods are also. This means that there is an equality between feeling joy with self-control and enduring pain with self-control. The joy in one case does not surpass the steadfastness of soul in the other case, when the victim remains strong even while being tortured. Goods of the first kind are desirable, while those of the second kind are admirable. And in both cases they are equal because any inconvenience in the latter is balanced by the greatness of the good. Anyone who believes they are unhappy is focusing on external appearances and not on the virtues themselves. True goods have the same weight and importance. The false ones, on the other hand, are full of emptiness. So when they are weighed, they fall short, even though they may look impressive on the surface. Yes, my dear Lucius, the good that true reason approves is solid and lasting. It strengthens and uplifts the spirit so that it will always stay on the heights. But those things that are carelessly praised as goods by the masses only fill us with empty joy. And those things that are feared as evils only make people anxious because they are disturbed by the appearance of danger, just like apples. So, it is without reason that both these things, pleasures and pains, trouble and sting the spirit. One is not worthy of joy, and the other is not worthy of fear. It is reason alone that remains unchanged and firm in its decisions, because reason is not a servant to the senses, but a ruler over them. Reason is equal to reason, just as one straight line is equal to another. Therefore, virtue is also equal to virtue. Virtue is nothing else but right reason. All virtues are based on reason. Reasons are equal if they are right reasons. If they are right, they are also equal. As reason is, so also are actions. Therefore, all actions are equal. Since they are based on reason, they also resemble each other. Moreover, I believe that actions are equal to each other in so far as they are honorable and right actions. Of course, there will be significant differences depending on the situation. Some actions are ordered, others never. Some are glorious, others low. Some have wide-ranging effects, others are limited. However, the best part of all these actions is that they are all honorable. In the same way, all good people are equal insofar as they are good. There are differences in age. One person may be older, another younger in appearance. One may be handsome, another unattractive in fortune. One may be rich, another poor. One may be influential and well-known, while another is unknown and obscure. But all are equal in what makes them good. Their senses do not decide what is good and evil. They do not know what is useful and what is not. They can only judge what is in front of them. They cannot see into the future or remember the past, and they do not understand cause and effect. But it is from such knowledge that a sequence of actions is created, leading to a unified life, a life that will follow a straight path. Reason, therefore, is the judge of good and evil. It considers anything foreign and external to be unimportant and regards what is neither good nor evil as merely secondary, insignificant, and trivial. All its good is found in the soul. There are certain goods that reason considers primary and directly pursues, like victory, good children, and the welfare of one's country. Other goods are secondary and only become apparent in adversity, like showing calmness in severe illness or exile. Some goods are indifferent. These are neither in line with nature nor against it, like having a calm and composed walk or sitting in a dignified manner. Sitting is no less natural than standing or walking. The two higher kinds of goods are different. The primary ones are in line with nature, like the joy that comes from the dutiful behavior of one's children or the well-being of one's country. The secondary ones are against nature, like the strength to resist torture and endure thirst and abuse. What then, you might ask? Can something against nature be a good? Of course not. The situation in which this good arises is sometimes against nature. For example, being born wasting away in fire or suffering from poor health are against nature. But it is in line with nature for a person to maintain an unyielding soul in these situations. To put it simply, the situation in which a good occurs may be against nature, but the good itself never is. Because no good lacks reason, and reason is in line with nature. What then, you ask, is reason? It is following nature's example, and what, you ask, is the greatest good that a person can possess? It is to live according to what nature intends. There's no doubt, the skeptic says, that peace is more enjoyable when it hasn't been disturbed than when it has been restored after a great battle. There's also no doubt, they continue, that health is more enjoyable when it hasn't been harmed than when it's restored through great effort and after suffering serious illnesses that threaten life itself. Similarly, there will be no doubt that joy is a greater good than enduring the torments of wounds or being burned with a stake. Not at all. Things that result from chance allow for wide differences because they are valued based on their usefulness to those who experience them. But when it comes to goods, the only thing to consider is that they are in line with nature. And this is true for all goods. In a Senate meeting, when we vote in favor of someone's motion, it cannot be said that one person agrees with the motion more than another. Everyone votes for the same motion. The same is true for virtues. They are all in line with nature. The same is true for goods. They are all in line with nature. One person dies young, another in old age, and another in infancy, having experienced nothing more than a brief glimpse of life. They have all been equally subject to death, even though one was allowed to live longer, another was cut off in their prime, and the third had their life ended just as it began. Some people die peacefully at the dinner table, others pass from sleep into the sleep of death. Some die in the midst of excess. Now compare these with those who have been killed by the sword, beaten to death by snakes, crushed by falling buildings, or tortured to death by the twisting of their muscles. Some of these deaths may seem better or worse, but the act of dying is the same in all cases. The methods of dying differ, but the end is the same. Death has no degrees of more or less. It has the same finality in all cases, the end of life. The same is true for goods. You will find one in a situation of pure pleasure, another in sorrow and bitterness. One controls fortune's favor, the other overcomes her attacks. Each is equally good, even though one walks a smooth and easy path while the other travels a rough road. But the end of both is the same. They are goods. They are worthy of praise, and they accompany virtue and reason. Virtue makes all things it acknowledges equal to one another. Don't be surprised that this is one of our principles. Even Epicurus mentions two groups in his teachings, which together make up his supreme good, or blessedness, a body free from pain and a soul free from disturbance. These goods, when complete, do not increase, because how can something that is complete increase? If the body is free from pain, what can be added to this absence of pain? If the soul is composed and calm, what can be added to this tranquility? Just as perfectly clear weather cannot become clear, so when a person takes care of both of their body and soul, leaving their good from both, their condition is perfect. And they have achieved their highest goal if there is no commotion in the soul or pain in the body. Whatever additional pleasures they experience do not increase the supreme good. They simply enhance it, adding spice to it. The ultimate good for human nature is satisfied with peace in the body and peace in the soul. I can show you right now in the writings of Epicurus a list of goods very similar to those of our own school. He states that there are some things he prefers to have, like bodily rest, free from all discomfort, and a soul that delights in contemplating its own goods. And there are other things which he would prefer not to experience, but still praises and approves of. Like the kind of resilience in times of illness and severe suffering that I mentioned earlier, which Epicurus himself displayed on the last and most blessed day of his life. He tells us that he endured excruciating pain from a diseased bladder and an ulcerated stomach, so severe that it could not become any worse. And yet he says that day was still happy, and no one can spend such a day in happiness unless they possess the supreme good. So even Epicurus mentions goods that one would prefer not to experience, but which, because circumstances demand it, must be embraced and valued as equal to the greatest goods. We cannot say that the good which completed a happy life, the good for which Epicurus gave thanks in his final words, is not equal to the greatest. Allow me, excellent Lucilius, to say something even bolder. If any goods could be greater than others, I would prefer those that seem harsh to those that are mild and easy, and I would consider them greater. It is a greater achievement to overcome difficulties than to keep drawing from mountains. It requires the same use of reason. I fully understand for a person to handle prosperity well and to endure misfortune bravely. A person may be just as brave who sleeps outside the camp walls without fear when no enemy is attacking as the one who, with his legs, tendons severed, holds himself up on his knees and does not drop his weapons. But it is to the blood-stained soldier returning from the battlefield that people cry, "Well done, hero." And so I would give greater praise to those goods that have been tested, shown courage and fought against fortune. Should I hesitate to give greater praise to the maimed and shriveled hand of Mucius than to the uninjured hand of the bravest person in the world? There stood Mucius, disregarding the enemy and the fire, watching his hand as it dripped blood over the fire on his enemy's altar, until Seneca, envious of the hero's fame, ordered the fire to be removed despite the victor's will. Why shouldn't I consider this good among the primary goods and deem it greater than those other goods that come without danger and have not been tested by fortune, just as it is a rarer thing to overcome an enemy with a lost hand than with an armed one? What then, you ask, would you desire this good for yourself? Of course I would, because this is something a person cannot achieve unless they also desire it. Should I instead desire to stretch out my limbs for my slaves to massage, or to have someone, whether a woman or a man, transformed into the likeness of a woman, pull my fingers? I can't help but to think that Mucius was all the luckier because he handled the flames as calmly as if he were holding out his hand to a masseur. He erased all his previous mistakes. He ended the war unarmed and maimed, and with that fat stump of a hand, he conquered 2 kings. Farewell. Letter 67, on ill health and endurance of suffering. If I may start with the common saying, spring is slowly revealing itself. But even though it's heading towards summer, we would expect warmer weather, it has strayed rather cold. And you still can't be sure if it will stay that way. Often it slides back into winter weather. Do you want to know how unpredictable it still is? I'm not yet ready to take a completely cold bath, even now. I warm it up a bit. You might say this doesn't show much endurance for either heat or cold. You're right, dear Lucilius, but at my age I'm content with the natural chill of my body. I can hardly warm up even in the middle of summer. So I spend most of the time bundled up, and I thank old age for keeping me close to my bed. Why shouldn't I thank old age for this? I no longer have the ability to do things I shouldn't wish to do. Most of my time is spent with books. Whenever your letters arrive, I imagine that I'm with you, and I feel like I'm speaking my response rather than writing it. So let's explore your problem together, just as if we were talking face to face. You ask me whether every good is worth nothing. You say if it's good to be brave under torture, to face death with courage, and to endure illness with patience, then these things must be worth nothing. But I don't see that anyone will pray for these things. I've never heard of anyone making a vow after being beaten, twisted by yells, or stretched on the rack. My dear Lucilius, you need to make a distinction in these cases. Then you'll see that there is something worth wanting in them. I would prefer not to face torture, but if it must happen, I would want to face it with bravery, honor, and courage. Of course, I'd rather avoid war, but if war comes, I'd want to endure the wounds, starvation, and everything else it brings with nobility. I'm not so foolish as to wish for illness, but if I must suffer through it, I want to behave with self-control and dignity. It is not that hardships are desirable, that the virtue which allows us to endure them is desirable. Some of our school believe that all of these qualities, strong endurance, isn't something to be desired, though it shouldn't be rejected either, because we should only pray for things that are purely good, peaceful, and free from trouble. Personally, I don't agree with them, and why? First, because it's impossible for somebody to be good without also being desirable. Secondly, because if virtue is desirable, and if nothing good lacks virtue, then everything good must be desirable. And finally, because enduring hardships bravely, even under torture, is desirable. Now I ask you, isn't bravery desirable? Yeah, bravery means facing and even challenging danger. The most admirable part of bravery is that it doesn't shy away from instinct, faces wounds head on, and sometimes even meets the spear with an opposing chest. If bravery is desirable, then so is patiently enduring torture because it's a part of bravery. You just need to examine these things closely, as I've suggested. Then there will be nothing to mislead you. It's not just enduring torture that's desirable, but enduring it bravely. That's why I desire brave endurance, and that's virtue. But you might say, who would ever wish for something like that for themselves? Some prayers are direct, where the requests are made specifically, while others are indirect, where many requests are included under one title. For example, I wish for a life of honor. Now, a life of honor includes various kinds of actions. It might include the chest in which Regulus was confined, or the wound Cato inflicted on himself, or the exile of Rutilius, or the cup of poison that sent Socrates from prison to heaven. So in wishing for a life of honor, I've also wished for those things without which, in some cases, life can't be. Often praised and blessed are those who died under Troy's towering walls, meeting a noble death before their parents' eyes. What difference does it make whether you wish this for someone specific or admit that it was desirable in the past? Decius sacrificed himself for the state. He spurred his horse and charged into the enemy, seeking death. The second Decius matched his father's bravery, repeated the words that had already become sacred, rushed into the thick of the fight, caring only that his sacrifice would bring victory, and saw a noble death as something to be desired. Do you still doubt whether it's best to die gloriously or performing a brave act? When someone endures torture bravely, they are using all virtues. Endurance might be the most visible virtue in such a situation, but bravery is there too, along with patience and long-suffering. Foresight is also present because no plan can be made without it. Foresight advises us to bear what we cannot avoid as bravely as possible. Steadfastness is there too, which cannot be shaken from its purpose by any force. The whole group of virtues is present together. Every honorable act is the work of one virtue, but it's supported by the judgment of all the virtues. Anything approved by all the virtues, even if it seems to be the work of just one, is desirable. What, do you think only those things are desirable which come to us with pleasure and ease, which we decorate our homes to welcome? There are some goods whose appearances are harsh. There are some prayers offered by people who are joyful but are humble and worshipful. Don't you think Regulus prayed like this as he made his way to Carthage? But on on a hero's courage and step away for a moment. From the opinions of ordinary people, imagine virtue as it truly is, a thing of incredible beauty and greatness. This image isn't something to be worshipped with incense or flowers, but with sweat and blood. Look at Marcus Cato, placing his clean hands on his wounded chest and tearing apart the wounds that hadn't gone deep enough to kill him. What should you say to him? I hope everything goes well, or good luck with your mission. In this connection, I think our friend Demetrius recalls an easy life, free from fortune's attacks of days. You have nothing to stir you up and make you act, nothing that tests your resolve with threats and dangers. If you live in a constant comfort, it's not true peace. It's just a calm that leads nowhere. The Stoic Attilas used to say, I'd rather have fortune keep me in a camp than in the lap of luxury. If I'm tortured but buried bravely, all is well. If I die but die bravely, that is also good. Listen to Epicurus. He'll tell you that it's actually pleasant. I, however, will never use a soft word for something so honorable and tough. If I go to the stake, I'll go undefeated. Why shouldn't I see this as desire? Not because the fire burns me, but because it doesn't overcome. Nothing is more excellent or beautiful than virtue. Whatever we do under its guidance is both good and desirable. Farewell. Letter 68, on wisdom and retirement. I agree with your plan. Withdraw and find peace in the rest, but also keep your withdrawal a secret. By doing this, you can be sure that you are following the Stoics' example, even if they're not exact teachings. But you will also be following their teachings. This way, you will satisfy both yourself and any Stoic you encounter. We Stoics do not push everyone to take part in public life in every situation or at all times, or without any exceptions. Also, when we give our wise personal role in public life, we mean the entire universe, not just a small part of it. So, even if the wise person withdraws from public life, they are not truly apart from it. In fact, they may have only left a small corner of the world and moved on to larger and wider areas. And when they are in the heavens, they understand how lonely the place was where they once sat, even if it was in a high position like a magistrate's chair. Remember this, the wise person is never more involved in life than when they can see both divine and human matters. Now, I return to the advice I wanted to give you. Keep your withdrawal in the background. You don't need to hang a sign on yourself that says philosopher and recluse. Call your withdrawal something else. Say it is due to poor health, physical weakness, or just laziness. To brag about our withdrawal is simply seeking attention. Some animals hide themselves by confusing their tracks near their homes. You should do the same, otherwise someone will always be following your tracks. Many people overlook what is visible and instead look for things that are hidden. A locked room invites a thief. Things that are out in the open seem cheap. A burglar ignores what is in plain sight. This is how the world works, and how all ignorant people think. They want to uncover hidden things, so it's best to not brag about your withdrawal. However, it is also a kind of bragging to make too much of your hiding and withdraw from the public eye. Someone might say, so-and-so has gone into hiding. Enter, or another man has locked himself up in Naples, while this third person hasn't stepped outside his house in years. To announce your withdrawal is to attract a crowd. When you withdraw from the world, your goal should be to talk to yourself, not to have others talk about you. But what should you talk about? Do what people usually do when they gossip about their neighbors. Criticize yourself when you're alone. Then you will get used to both speaking and hearing the truth. Above all, think about what you believe is your greatest weakness. Everyone knows their own body's flaws best. So one person might ease their stomach by vomiting, another by eating often, and another by fasting regularly. Those whose feet hurt might avoid wine or birds. In general, people who are careless in other ways will go out of their way to treat the illness that frequently involves them. It's the same with our souls. There are certain parts of us that are, so to speak, always sick, and those parts need the cure. So what am I doing with my free time? I'm trying to heal my own wounds. If I showed you a swollen foot, an inflamed hand, or some shriveled muscles and a withered leg, you would let me stay in one place and apply medicine to the affected part. My problem is greater than any of these, and I can't show it to you. The abscess or ulcer is deep within my chest. Please, please don't praise me or say, what a great man, he has learned to despise everything and escape the madness of life. I have condemned nothing except myself. There's no reason why you shouldn't want to come to me to make progress. You're wrong if you think you'll get any help here. There's no doctor here, only a sick man. I'd rather have you leave saying, I used to think he was a happy and wise man, and I was eager to hear him, but I was disappointed. I saw nothing and heard nothing that I wanted or came to hear. If you feel and speak this way, some progress has been made. I'd rather you forgive than envy my withdrawal. Then you ask, Seneca, are you really recommending withdrawal? Will you soon be quoting the teachings of Epicurus? Yes, I do recommend withdrawal to you, but only so you can use it for better and more meaningful activities than those you've left behind. Knocking on the doors of the powerful, making lists of childless old men, or holding the highest offices in public life. These kinds of power make you hate them, are short-lived, and if you see them for what they are cheap. One person may be far ahead of me in public influence, another in the military salary, and the position that comes with it, and another in the number of clients they have. But it's worth being outdone by all these people if I can outdo fortune, and I can't compete with her in the crowd. She has more support. I wish you had decided to follow this path earlier. I wish we weren't discussing the happy life while staring death in the face. But even now, let's not delay. Now we can rely on experience, which tells us that many things are unnecessary and harmful. For this, we should have listened to reason long ago. Let's do what people do when they're late and want to make up for lost time. They speed up. Our stage of life is the best for these pursuits because the time of intense emotions has passed. The flaws that were uncontrolled in our youth are now weaker, and only a little more effort is needed to eliminate them. You might ask, when will it benefit you if you only learn this at the end of your life? And how will it benefit you? It will benefit me by allowing me to die a better person. But don't think that any time in life is better suited to gaining wisdom than the time when you've overcome yourself through many trials, through long and repeated regret for past mistakes, and when your passions have calmed and you've achieved a state of health. This is indeed the time to acquire this good. Whoever has gained wisdom in old age has earned it through their years. Farewell. Letter 69. Unrest and restlessness. I don't like it when you keep changing your stay and moving from one place to another. My first reason is that such frequent moving shows an unsteady mind. And the mind cannot grow into unity through retreat unless it has stopped being curious and wondering. To control your mind, you must...
Well, that was Shadowfang Keep.